Hello everyone. So as you can see, we're in the LinkedIn office today with LinkedIn's very own Brendan Wong. And I've been super excited for this. We actually met each other, at the LinkedIn editorial program, which you held. And it was super helpful for people like me, just figuring out how to find your voice on LinkedIn and build your brand. So yeah, thanks for holding that event, first of all.
Thank you for coming to it and listening. I think anyone's attendance was very much appreciated.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, the really cool thing is Brendan, being a careers editor at LinkedIn, also does those cool things. As we just said, helps people build their brand, goes to different events and helps out the community as a whole. But the one thing that I felt was really special is that he's been making a lot of LinkedIn videos, really awesome LinkedIn videos. And I thought, who better to learn the secrets of LinkedIn video than from Brendan himself. So,
thank you.
How are you going today, Brendan?
I'm going really well.
Yeah.
Yes, excited to do this. And it's kind of a role reversal because I usually am in the seat of the interviewer and asking people the questions. So it's always a little bit different being in the interviewee seat.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I'm a good interviewer.
I think you are. I have watched your videos. You are excellent.
Yeah, hope you have a good time. So the first thing I was wondering, outside of your job being a careers editor, you've done book launches, you're a speaker for like the Australian School of Entrepreneurship when they had that event. You've done all these cool things outside of work. So I was just wondering, how do they all come together and align with your own personal goals?
I think some of it have happened by chance. I think being on LinkedIn and working for them, I do get to connect with a lot of great professionals in different industries. And I think through building connections, and they become aware of who you are. And I think a lot of the times they've come to me and asking if I want to participate in something, whether it was to host a book launch or speak at an event. Yeah. These aren't things that I actually sought after, but I jumped at the opportunity because I really do believe in challenging yourself by getting yourself in uncomfortable situations that allow you to grow. I like to think I have a very strong growth mindset where, look, if things fail and it wasn't great, hey, I still get something out of it. I learn something. So I'm always about trying new things and see whether I like it and seeing if I can learn something from the experience.
Yeah, I love that. That's really awesome to hear. So I love the whole aspect of having that growth mindset, putting yourself in uncomfortable positions. And it makes me think of that first video you released, how you mentioned, you weren't comfortable hearing your own voice, you weren't really comfortable just seeing your own face plastered up there when you're filming. What really pushed you to be like, okay, I'm going to put myself through this exposure therapy and just make videos even if I'm not comfortable with it?
Well, I can say that on the one hand, the company was encouraging us to do video, but it wasn't forced upon us. It was definitely something that they was more just, do this as a way to sort of model, because video was becoming a new format that we were pushing out. And so we needed to lead by example. So I was a little bit it took a few weeks for me to get comfortable with the idea of going and filming a video. And it was really hard because I just really, really did not like the sound of my voice. I'm happy to present and talk and have that recorded and shared with somebody else, but I don't want to hear it back.
Yeah.
So with videos, you do have to film it and you have to cut it together so it looks nice for LinkedIn. And I think for me, I decided that I was just gonna dive right in and make my first video. I've come a bit of a confessional, just let people know I don't like my own voice, but I'm going to give this a go. And when I did do that, I got a really, really wonderful outpouring of support from my network and from experts, and they were giving me great tips and encouragement. And I think that's what I love about LinkedIn, is that you can be a bit vulnerable, you can share your weakness, and then once you put it out there, people are drawn to your authenticity. And so that really encouraged me to try to do it. And I think the whole process, it actually took me a little time to actually just watch that footage and play it back and edit. Like I remember, I uploaded the clip to my laptop, but I just couldn't bring myself to watch it. I just the idea of hearing myself, seeing my video was just too much. So I actually had to take a walk around the block, and I came back, and yes, it was really uncomfortable. But I would say that after that one experience, I did another one, and then I did another one. And it got to a point where after maybe a few videos, I found that the thing that I was distracted by was not my voice it was not my voice, but kind of like little things like, oh, my shirt was not like, it was a little bit a bit messy.
Yeah.
So I think when I realized that, I go, oh, okay, my focus is no longer on how I sound. I've kind of gotten used to it. And that's what you mentioned, the exposure therapy. It does work. If you're not comfortable with your voice, you just have to suck it up, record yourself, and just listen to it back, and you do get used to the way you sound.
I love that. Yeah. So, I mean, for anyone out there who's been thinking about making video, but maybe a little bit hesitant, maybe a little bit scared, like that, so many benefits come from it. I learned that myself. I wasn't very comfortable just hearing my own voice, but with starting the podcast, putting out these videos, like you get more comfortable with it. And the thing I liked is you start noticing these other things, like your shirt may be a bit, be a bit crumpled, and that's exactly my experience as well. So for the people out there who are already making LinkedIn video, may have done like just one, what is your biggest secret or your biggest tip for them?
I think my biggest tip is to be yourself. And I think that's my learning, and I think it will always be my advice, is be authentically yourself, because people are drawn to that, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I've learned to drop my standards and be okay with being a little bit rough on the edges, and say sometimes the video didn't come out great, or I don't know, you stumbled on a few words, and I'm sure I have stumbled a few times even in this recording, but being okay with that, and say that's just who I am. And I think people are happy to listen to someone who's being real rather than like super polished and clinical and almost like, you know, someone they can't connect to, just too perfect. So I think being a little bit raw, especially in this age of AI, I think shows that you're human and people can relate to that.
Yeah. Okay, so now I want to do some quick fire questions. So what's a dream, a goal, or an ambition you've had that's stuck with you?
I think my goal, I'm going to talk about a goal that I had this year, which was really to use my platform to showcase the work of authors. I'm really passionate about books. I love reading, and I think authors are such a perfect fit for LinkedIn because they're sharing knowledge, which is what our platform is all about.
Yeah.
And at the start of the year, I had no connections. Where do I start? But I think that once I sort of started building relationships with people in the space, it was just took one person who said they had written a book, and they connected me to someone who was a publicist, and they worked with authors in making sure that their book gets a lot of positive buzz in the media. And so once she connected me to this person, they started to share books with me, connect me to these authors, and that's why I started doing these author sort of 2-minute series on my LinkedIn. And then from there, I was meeting authors, and you know, one of them invited me to speak at the event, which happened last week. And I think all of that has come about because of relationships. I'm really big on building a network, because if you have a goal and you start to tell people are really happy to help you reach that. And I think none of this is a solo effort. I think everyone's success is because someone has reached out, has given them advice, or connected them to someone. So I think that's been my goal, but also the biggest learning and reminder to keep fostering connections and relationships, because you'll just be more successful that way.
Yeah, and a really cool thing about the relationships you mentioned, and before you mentioned how that first video you were being vulnerable, and a lot of support came from that, a lot of good relationships were built through that. And I think that's actually something pretty unique to LinkedIn as a social media platform. A lot of other platforms, if you're being super vulnerable, that you might actually get a little bit of a hate towards you, a little bit of attacks towards you. But one good thing about LinkedIn is when people see that, they resonate with it a lot, because everyone has their own vulnerabilities. They want to support you. They may want to do the same things with you and help each other out. So I think that's a really cool point. Going back to the book launch and just your love for books in general, what would you say are your top 3 books?
I'm going to go from the top of my mind. I'd say the book that I just spoke about last week, which is a book called Productivity Joy by an author called Simi Riot, and she's a psychologist. And I think what I love about this book is that it gives you a toolkit to check in with yourself so that you can be your best self in your life and at work, because I think often we kind of just allow situations to dictate how we are.
Yeah.
And sometimes things suck, but we need to be able to sort of park that so that we can get our jobs done, get through life. And I think she goes through a 5-step process, which just helps you sort of check in with yourself.
Yeah.
I think a second book would be Another one which I got to MC the book launch for. This is all like personal
Perfect.
connections.
Yeah.
My second book is Busy Idiots. It's written by two authors. Their name is Joff Outlaw and Brad Marshall. And they kind of just unpack why we're so busy. You know, it's technology and the way that perhaps our workplaces are designed. And it gives you sort of the tools so that you can reclaim your time and still be productive and really get the most out of your life. So I thought that book was really, really good. And I think the third book is Less Hustle, More Happy by an author called Claire Seabar. And what I liked about this book is that it's the kind of book I wish I had read when I had started my career a long time ago, because it kind of just helps you unpack what are your values, how do you work, what do you need, how do you thrive? Because I think when you know that, you can make better career decisions. And when I was younger, I used to just hope that a company liked me, I was good enough, and that the rest will follow through that. But I've discovered that it's very important to know what you want, because then when you're doing something like job hunting, you don't go and join a company that may not be aligned to who you are, and they can't support you in that, because not every company is the same. And so I think this book was really helpful to help me sort of unpack those things and be really clear and help me know what I need to be fulfilled.
Yeah, I'll put those books in the show notes for people to find. And on the topic of all these books, a lot of them is about, self-improvement, becoming a better person. And the whole theme, I think, of this conversation, we've mentioned a lot about vulnerabilities and getting over these barriers. So for yourself, what are some habits or mindsets that you repeat to yourself or you do every day that helps you continue to push past barriers and get closer to your goals?
I think the first one is really knowing how to set yourself up well in the day, because how you start will influence the rest of the day. So kind of using the tips from that first book I mentioned, I always just kind of ask myself questions like, how am I feeling? What's working? What could be better? What are things I want to achieve? And how do I want to show up? So those are some of the best practices that are really, sitting very clearly with me, because I've just read the book. But I think they've been really helpful, because before I come into work, I just want to make sure that I am able to be my best self, regardless of what's happening, in my life or whatever. And I always just want to be as positive, because when you exude that, people are drawn to you. And there's a quote that I really like from the musical Dear Evan Hansen. And in the end, the character says, today's going to be a good day. And you know why? Because today you're you, and that's enough. I might have stuffed up the lines, but that's the general gist. It's just when you're you, that's all that matters. Be who you are. Don't worry what people think. Don't try to be someone else. And that really resonates with me, because I've always struggled with self-doubt and always trying to be like, oh, I'm not good enough, or people may not like me. But I find that what I'm wrestling with is just going, this is me. Take it or leave it. And I think when you're, authentically you, people will come and they're drawn to you. Want to work with you.
I love that. And I think you may have just answered one of my final questions, where I ask people, what's one quote you want to live your life by? But this brings me back to the final question. If you could talk to everyone in the world for 30 seconds, what would you say to them?
If I could talk to anyone for 30 seconds, I would probably ask them to teach me one life skill.
Right.
So it could be their best tip on something that they've just discovered, or an interesting fact that they've learned. I like to learn, so I think others always have something to share, and I like to learn something from that.
Yeah, I love this answer, because everyone else I ask this, and I ask every guest, they've always just thought of things to say to someone, but you've actually flipped it and thought of something to ask, which I think throughout the whole theme of this interview has always been about this growth mindset. So yeah, I love that answer. And I mean, if you ever do get that chance, I'd love to learn that skill from you as well.
Well, that's one thing, is some people love to talk about themselves, and the best conversation tip that I use is you just ask people questions. People will have no hesitation to talk about themselves, and that's why I feel like it's the best way to connect with others. You just blast them with questions.
I love that. All right. Thank you very much, Brendan.
You're welcome.
Great to chat.
Thanks for having me. It's really, really fun to do this.
I hope you had a fun time switching roles this time and being on the other end.
Yeah, and it really just helped me to build my confidence as just being able to explain things succinctly without, hopefully not too rambly.
Well, same thing for me. I'm always saying, like, am I rambling too much? But hopefully everyone gets value out of this.
Awesome.
And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Braith.